Look at him, the base's new mascot. Lieutenant Blake Morgan sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. He gestured at the 65-year-old man sitting alone, a relic with white hair and deep-set wrinkles, quietly cleaning an old model rifle. The other cadets chuckled, seeing only a fossil out of time. They mocked him freely, never noticing the calm precision in his hands. But when a mysterious code locked down the entire facility's advanced security grid, only one device on base received a message, an encrypted pager. Before I tell you what those 4 words on the screen were, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now let's get into it. The story begins at the most advanced training facility in the country. The Blackwood Advanced Tactics Center wasn't just a place, it was a statement. Gleaming towers of glass and steel cut into the sky, surrounded by pristine training grounds where the future of warfare was being forged daily. Everything was new, sterile, and ruthlessly efficient. Into this world of cutting-edge technology and youthful ambition walked Arthur R. Peterson. At 65, he was a living contradiction to everything Blackwood stood for. His simple, slightly faded military fatigues looked like a museum piece next to the cadets' state-of-the-art tactical gear. The lines on his face were a roadmap of a life lived far from polished corridors and simulated battles. He'd been brought in as a special advisor, a title so vague it invited suspicion and ridicule. To the elite cadets, he was an enigma, and a laughable one at that. They saw a stooped old man who moved with a slow, deliberate pace, his hands calloused and his eyes carrying a weight they couldn't possibly comprehend. Leading the chorus of mockery was Lieutenant Blake Morgan. Young, brilliant, and unbearably arrogant, Morgan was the Academy's golden boy. He believed warfare was a science of algorithms and drone strikes, and he saw art as a ghost from a primitive past. "Pay attention, everyone," Morgan announced during a morning briefing, a smirk playing on his lips. "Mr. Peterson here is going to teach us how they used to fight with sticks and stones." A wave of snickers filled the room. Art, standing at the back, said nothing. His silence seemed to unnerve Morgan more than any retort could. While most cadets followed Morgan's lead, one did not. Cadet Eva Rostova was different. Sharp, observant, and possessing a deep respect for history, she found herself drawn to the quiet old man. She watched him not with contempt, but with curiosity. She noticed how, despite his age, his eyes missed nothing. A loose wire on a training drone, a subtle shift in the wind, the faint tremor of a distant explosion. He saw the world in a resolution the others couldn't perceive. One afternoon, as the cadets were cleaning and stowing their gear in pristine, automated lockers, Art was organizing his belongings from a simple, worn canvas duffel bag. It was the kind of bag that smelled faintly of old oil and distant lands. As he lifted a folded jacket, a small, heavily worn patch slipped out and fell to the floor with a soft thud. Before the ever-watchful Morgan could make a joke about the old man dropping his things, Eva darted forward. She picked it up and saw the faded gray fabric, embroidered with 3 words in black thread: Iron Wolf Unit. The name meant nothing to most, but for Eva, a student of military history, it stirred a faint, almost mythical echo. It was a unit spoken of only in whispers, tied to redacted files and missions that officially never happened. She handed it back to Art, her eyes full of questions. "Sir," she said respectfully. Art took the patch, his fingers closing around it gently. He gave her a single, brief nod, a fleeting acknowledgement that held more weight than an hour of conversation. He tucked it away and continued his task, his expression unreadable. But the seed of mystery was planted. Eva knew, with a certainty she couldn't explain, that the quiet old man they all dismissed as a relic was infinitely more than he appeared. The ghost haunting the halls of Blackwood had a name, and she was determined to find out what it meant. The mockery intensified over the next few days, with Lieutenant Morgan leading the charge. During a complex field exercise involving drone reconnaissance and cyber warfare simulations, Morgan assigned Art to a remote, windswept observation post. "Just keep an eye on things, old-timer," he'd said with a dismissive wave. "Let us know if you see any squirrels planning an invasion." The cadets within earshot had laughed. Art simply nodded and made his way to the post. For hours, he sat in silence, observing the landscape not through a high-tech tablet, but with his own eyes and a pair of old, battle-scar binoculars. While the cadets were focused on their screens, Art was watching the periphery. He noticed things their sensors missed. The unnatural flight pattern of a flock of birds, the subtle disturbance of dust on a distant ridge. Then he saw it. A flicker. A single security camera perched on a high ridge overlooking the entire training ground, glitched for exactly 1.7 seconds. It was an anomaly so brief it would be dismissed by any automated system as a data error. But Art knew it wasn't. He pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook and a pen, and with a steady hand, jotted down the time, coordinates, and duration. It was a clue, a loose thread in the perfect tapestry of Blackwood security. That evening, the tension came to a head. All cadets were assembled in the main briefing hall for a high-level strategy presentation. The room was dark, the massive central screen displaying complex tactical maps. Morgan was in his element, confidently explaining a theoretical strike plan. Suddenly, the screen went blank. A low chime echoed through the hall as every display flickered and was replaced by a single, ominous message in stark white letters. Restricted access. Authorization code. Iron Wolf. Confusion erupted. The instructor, a seasoned captain, frantically tried to override the command, his fingers flying across the console. "System is locked. I can't get back in," he yelled, his voice tight with panic. The cadets murmured nervously, their arrogance dissolving into fear. This was no drill. The most secure facility in the country had just been paralyzed by an unknown entity. Amid the chaos, Art sat perfectly still in the back row. A small, ruggedized, pager-like device on his belt, an ancient piece of tech they'd all privately mocked, suddenly vibrated. He glanced down. The small monochrome screen glowed with 4 simple words. "Iron Wolf, standby." His hand, which had been resting calmly on his knee, froze. His pulse quickened. Across the aisle, Eva Rostova, who had been watching him instead of the chaotic scene at the front, caught the faint glow from the device. She couldn't make out the words, but she saw the change in him. The quiet, passive observer was gone. In his place was a man who had just been summoned. Miles away, in a dimly lit, high-security operations center deep within the Pentagon, an alarm blared on a single console. Colonel Marcus Thorne saw the alert flash on his screen. Iron Wolf protocol activated. His jaw tightened. He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor, and grabbed his coat. He knew that code. He knew the man it belonged to. And he knew that if the protocol had been activated, it meant someone at Blackwood had no idea what kind of storm they had just awakened. He was already on his way. The next morning, a thick blanket of tension covered Blackwood. The lockdown had been lifted, but the mystery of the Iron Wolf override left everyone on edge. Whispers filled the corridors, replacing the usual arrogant banter with uneasy speculation. Lieutenant Morgan, however, projected a facade of unshakable confidence. He stood before the morning assembly, attempting to regain control. "Clearly a system glitch," he announced loudly, "probably triggered by some piece of outdated equipment. We're looking into it." His eyes flickered towards Art in the back, a clear insinuation. Just as he was about to continue, the grand double doors of the briefing hall swung open with a resounding thud. Every head turned. A man strode in who commanded silence without uttering a single word. It was Colonel Marcus Thorne. His uniform was perfectly pressed, his chest a formidable display of ribbons and medals, each one telling a story of valor. But it wasn't his rank that froze the room. It was the sheer force of his presence, the aura of a man who had walked through fire and emerged unbroken. Colonel Thorne's gaze swept across the sea of young faces, sharp and piercing, before it locked onto the old man in the back row. The air crackled with unspoken history. For the first time, Art shifted in his seat, not with apprehension, but with the quiet recognition of a soldier meeting his commander. Thorne took a few deliberate steps forward, his boots clicking sharply on the polished floor. Then, in a voice that was low but carried the authority of a thunderclap, he gave an order that shattered the reality of everyone present. Iron Wolf, stand by. The hall fell into a stunned silence. Morgan blinked, his smug expression crumbling into confusion. I'm sorry, Colonel, what did you just... But Thorne wasn't looking at him. His eyes were fixed on Art, who rose slowly and steadily to his feet. Every cadet stared, their minds struggling to connect the frail old man with the mythical code name that had brought their fortress to its knees. You cadets think you know what a warrior looks like, Thorne began, his voice resonating with cold fury as he turned to face the room. You look at this man and you see a relic. You see something to be dismissed, to be mocked. His eyes found Morgan, and the young lieutenant visibly flinched. You called him weak. He let the accusation hang in the air before continuing. Years ago, during the Dawson Ridge conflict, a 12-man Special Forces unit was trapped behind enemy lines. They were cut off, out of ammo, and officially declared lost. The mission was a write-off. He paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. Then one man, leading a small, unsanctioned 4-man team with the call sign Iron Wolf, went in. No air support. No backup. It was a suicide run. 47 minutes later, every single one of those 12 soldiers walked out alive. A collective gasp went through the room. Thorne stepped closer to Art, his voice dropping with a reverence that bordered on awe. He didn't just command that unit. He saved my life that day. The revelation hit the room like a shockwave. Eva Rostova's eyes were wide with disbelief and vindication. Morgan's face went pale, his arrogance completely stripped away, leaving only raw, humiliating shock. Then, something incredible happened. A single cadet in the back, overwhelmed by the story, stood up and snapped to a crisp salute. Another followed his lead, then another and another. Within seconds, the entire hall was on its feet, a forest of arms raised in perfect, silent unison, offering the highest honor to the man they had ridiculed. After a long moment, Thorne stepped close to Art, his voice a low whisper only he could hear. Someone's watching this base, Art. Someone who shouldn't be. Art's jaw tightened, his gaze hardening. Then it begins again. Welcome back, Iron Wolf, Thorne murmured. The newfound respect was still settling in when night fell, bringing with it a violent storm and something far more sinister. Just before midnight, the base alarms shrieked to life, their piercing cries ripping through the barracks. A voice, laced with panic, boomed over the intercom. Breach detected. West perimeter. All units to battle stations. Cadets spilled from their bunks, the disciplined order of their training dissolving into a scramble of chaotic energy. The strategy hall, moments before a place of quiet reflection, became the chaotic heart of the crisis. Colonel Thorne stood at its center, a bastion of calm amidst the storm, barking orders with cold precision. Lock down sectors Alpha and Bravo. Seal the gates. I want a full diagnostic on that perimeter breach now. But a young tech officer, his face pale as a ghost, rushed to Thorne's side. Sir, he stammered, the breach didn't come from the outside. The internal sensors were triggered first. Whoever they are, they were already in. The room went dead silent. Every eye turned to Thorne, who in turn looked directly at one man, Arthur Peterson. Art, South Wing, main server hub. They'll be targeting our data core. Take Rostova. Go. His choice was deliberate. He was pairing the sharpest mind of the new generation with the deadliest instincts of the old. Without a word, Art grabbed a sidearm from the weapons locker, his movements fluid and economical. Eva was right behind him. Together, they sprinted down the corridors, their boots pounding a frantic rhythm on the floors as emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows around them. The halls were eerily quiet, the silence a stark contrast to the screaming alarms. Art led them through a maze of maintenance tunnels, a part of the base the cadets never saw. He moved with a certainty that defied his age. He stopped abruptly, pointing to a ventilation panel near the ceiling. The screws were fresh, minutely scratched. They've been here, he muttered, his voice a low growl. Just then, a sound echoed from the corridor behind them, the soft scuff of a tactical boot. "Step out. Now," Art commanded, leveling his weapon in a single, smooth motion. A figure clad in black tactical gear, carrying suppressed weaponry of a type no standard unit used, emerged from the shadows. The intruder froze for a split second before lunging, not at them, but towards an adjacent hallway. Eva fired a warning shot that sparked off the concrete wall as the figure bolted. Art gave chase instantly. They tore through the labyrinthine corridors until they burst into the lower maintenance wing, a cavernous space filled with humming machinery. Art skidded to a halt. The intruder was gone, but he had left something behind. Affixed to the main security mainframe panel was a small, sophisticated device, its single blue light blinking silently. Art carefully detached it, turning it over in his hand. It wasn't a bomb. It was a deep-layer data scanner, designed to map network vulnerabilities. And the markings on its casing were unmistakable. It was top secret, U.S. military issue. Someone from the inside hadn't just authorized this breach, they had orchestrated it. By dawn, the alarms had faded. The infiltrator had vanished, leaving behind no casualties, only the scanner and a chilling question. "This wasn't an attack," Art said, dropping the device onto the briefing table with a sharp clink. "They weren't here to steal anything." Thorne's face was grim. "No," he agreed quietly. "They were testing us. They wanted to see if the wolf was still guarding the henhouse." Across the room, Lieutenant Blake Morgan stepped forward, his arrogance replaced by a profound sense of humility. I didn't know," he stammered, looking at Art. Art met his gaze, his expression unreadable. After a long moment, he finally spoke. "Now you do." As the sun rose over Blackwood, Art stood alone, watching the horizon. The ghost was back, and the game had just begun. This story is a powerful reminder that true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It's quiet, patient, and forged in fires most will never see. It teaches us that we must never judge a book by its cover or a soldier by the wrinkles on his face, because the most unassuming old-timer might just be the pillar holding the entire structure up, the one they call when all else fails. Have you ever underestimated someone based on their age or appearance, only to be completely proven wrong? What would you have done if you were one of the cadets watching that stunning revelation unfold? In a world that constantly chases the newest and fastest technology, how much value do you believe hard-won experience and old-school wisdom truly hold? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective on this. If this story about hidden legends and deserved respect moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales about unsung heroes. Share this with a friend, a parent, or anyone who believes that experience is the greatest teacher of all. We read every single comment, and your stories inspire us to find more just like this one. More stories about legends making a comeback are waiting for you on the screen right now. Click on one of those to watch next. And we'll see you tomorrow with a shocking story about a misunderstood genius who changed the world from her garage.